Iron is the most common metal on Earth, and it's been used for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians used iron to make weapons. They would use it to make certain tools like axes, and they could use it to make armor. But iron was an expensive metal in the ancient world. It was expensive not because it's scarce, it is incredibly common. It was expensive because they found it difficult to produce. The way they were making iron in the ancient world was with bloomery furnaces, and they had to literally pound the impurities out of iron ore. That took a lot of time and effort, and that made iron very scarce. It was a precious metal back then. But eventually, over time, people discovered better, more efficient ways of making iron. And by the 1800s, iron was no longer scarce. It was an incredibly common metal that you could use to make bigger things. And you could make things in the millions. You could make the cannonballs, for example, that you needed to fight the Civil War, and lots of cannons, and all of the other machinery that was needed in that conflict. And you could do things with iron that people couldn't have imagined thousands of years ago. You could make really big things, structures like buildings or even bridges. This is a wonderful example. This is the Hamilton Street Bridge, which is in Allentown. This photo was taken in the 1890s. That shows you how strong and durable iron is. And the fact that they were making bridges out of it also shows you how abundant this metal was by the 1800s. And a few more examples of common things that were being made from iron, things like these S-hooks. These are strong and durable. We actually make these here at the canal. Horseshoes, or in this case down on the canal, mule shoes. Every mule needed 4 of these to be able to safely walk up and down our towpath. And how about this? This looks like a nail. Now, the way people were using iron to make nails that would hold up buildings like this barn behind me, but this isn't a nail for a building. This is a railroad spike. This holds down the rails, which are also made of iron. And what rides on those iron rails? Well, iron trains. I think you can see that by the 1800s, iron was incredibly common and being used for lots of things. And we still use iron abundantly today. Skyscrapers and long bridges, the steel cables that hold up suspension bridges. This is all made from steel, and iron is the main element in steel. So where exactly does all this iron come from? Well, to better understand where iron comes from, I'd like you to think about how you might, say, bake a cake. What does baking a cake have to do with making iron? Well, in order to bake a cake, you need an oven. But you also need the right ingredients. If you want to make a cake, you need to put the right ingredients into that oven. For a cake, it might be things like flour, sugar, and eggs. You put those into the oven, you set it at the right temperature, and eventually you'll have a nice, delicious cake. To make iron, we need a blast furnace, and we need the right ingredients, and they're right here on the table in front of me. We're going to go over each of these ingredients one by one and talk about where they come from and what they're used for inside our blast furnace.